Welcome to the Hire Yourself podcast. If you're ready to take control of your destiny, build wealth, and live life on your own terms, this is the place for you. Each week, Nat and I will talk about business, franchising, and personal growth to help make you more successful. Good morning, Nat.
Good morning, Pete.
Man, I am pumped up today.
What did you just get a workout done? What's going on?
Oh, well, yeah, that would have been inspirational, but no, I get the opportunity to see all my kids this weekend.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and that's very unusual. They go to college, and so very few times in the year do we all get together. So I am super pumped up about getting everybody together, and we play games like we play Sorry, and it's vicious Sorry. You know, that's a kid's game. And
Right.
but it's all out when we play. I mean, it is vindictive. I mean, sending people back to home, all that kind of stuff. So we get together, we play games, we eat, all that kind of stuff. So I'll probably gain a few pounds this weekend, have some great laughs. But you know, I'm pumped up about this.
Are you going to be going to the car wash like 5 or 6 times?
Yeah, well, I got to take the fleet of cars in, right? So everybody's got their cars, and they don't really keep them clean. So I'll probably sneak out and do that too. You know,
Yep.
It's my chance to clean the cars when they bring them home. So, you know, as I think about my family, when I was a corporate executive, I was gone all the time. I was gone 5, 6 days a week, and we moved all the time. You know, I made the commitment when they were younger to leave the corporate world and invest in a business. And I got to tell you, Nat, I almost didn't do it. It came down to is that I almost decided just to stay in the corporate world and not take the path. And I think if I would have done that, if I would have stayed in the corporate world, I wouldn't have that great relationship with my kids, my wife, or even my community. And so I thought today what we talk about is the reasons why people don't invest in a business, right? Because you can kind of, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people just are not willing to invest in a business or invest in themselves. Does that sound like a good topic today?
It does. Weren't you telling me a little while back, like because you haven't moved in so long, because you've had your own business, that you're like having to actually do home maintenance? You're not used to doing like repairing roofs and air conditioners and
Up until owning my own business, we never lived in a house more than 4 years.
Yeah.
I never had experience of replacing the HVAC system or replacing the roof and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if I like that part, but it is, I guess, a benefit associated with having to be living in one place for a long time. So
yeah, not to get sidetracked, but the that kind of makes me remember or think about like cars, because when you have like I have one car that's a 2011. And so I feel like I'm always doing maintenance on it. And then I have another car that's a little bit newer. I'm like, this is kind of nice. You know, it's like I haven't had to replace the tires. I haven't even had to replace the windshield wipers.
Yeah. You pay either way, right? But it is
either way.
It's a nice feeling. All right. Yep. So why don't we talk about the 10 top reasons why people don't invest in a business, or we'll even say a franchise business. Okay. So number one is fear. And that stops so many people from investing in a business.
I agree. Is this kind of like a Letterman thing where we're doing the top 10 or?
Well, we always have to have a plan now. We always have to have a plan. All right.
Okay.
So when we talk about fear, right, and I think back to my story. So I was a corporate executive. I was traveling all the time, and I literally got to the point where I was just never home, and my wife wasn't happy because she was raising our young kids on her own. I wasn't at my kids' events, and when I was home, I was tired. It was just terrible. So I decided one day that I was going to quit the corporate world, just flat out quit my high-paying corporate job and take back my life, right? And I decided that I was going to go through the process, and I found a business. I found it specifically. Have you ever heard of 1-800-GOT-JUNK?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that one.
Canadian company, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was Junk King. Junk King was a junk rule franchise. And I decided that I was going to invest in that franchise, and I was going to buy the rights to 3 states.
Wow.
But, you know, I had to write a big check, right, for that. And I'm sitting there worrying about, I got to write this big check, and what if it doesn't work?
Right.
right? And so I call my mentor. His name is Wes. He's been my mentor for a very long time. And I call him. I say, Wes, I'm about ready to write this big check for this franchise. And what if it doesn't work? And what if I fail? I'm going to lose all that money. And
Yeah.
he said, Pete, were you successful in college? I said, yeah, I was successful in college. He goes, were you successful as a corporate executive? I said, yeah, I ran a very large organization for Ford. I ran a big organization for Terex. Yeah, I was successful. He goes, well, what would make you think you wouldn't be successful owning a small franchise business? And I thought, holy cow, right?
Yeah.
But I almost had so much fear I didn't write that check. And if I wouldn't have wrote that check, I would not be living the life that I do today, where I don't have a boss, I don't have to move all the time, I don't have crazy pressure. It's all on me and stuff like that. And I see that fear, and fear is false evidence appearing real. So many people get stopped by fear when they're looking to invest in a business.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can think of it kind of like that first time you dove off the high board or whatever. I mean, I remember kind of like looking down at the water and being like, I don't want to do this, right? And then
Yeah.
it ends up being like the best thing, and you kind of get used to it after a while, and can't get enough of it.
My dad was the kind of guy that would have been up on the diving board with me and would have just shoved me off.
Sink or swim, Pete.
Yeah, no time to think about fear. You're going from that standpoint. All right.
Yeah.
The second one, lack of capital. They just don't have the resources or know where to get the resources to fund a business.
I don't think I've ever told you this story regarding lack of capital for me. When I bought my first franchise, I had paid off. I had I don't know what year it would have been, maybe a 2000 Volkswagen Jetta. And I had paid that off because I was like, I don't want to be in debt, right? And how I got my franchise fee was I drove that Jetta to the US Bank in my town. And I still remember sitting across from the personal banker or whatever. And I'm like, I need to get a car loan on my car. So I literally went to the bank, got a car loan, and used that money to pay my franchise fee.
Yeah, yeah. And when we think about investing in a business, you got to have enough capital for sure. Excuse me. And the deal is that you can get it in many different ways. And we work with people to kind of tell them, but at the end of the day, you need in today's world kind of a minimum of, we'll call it $75,000 to $100,000 in liquid capital to invest in a service-based or facility-based franchise concept, right? You have to have so much liquid capital or money that's non-borrowed. You can certainly get loans and stuff like that, but you have to have so much capital because you don't want to go into a business undercapitalized. I mean, you were lucky. You went into it. You didn't have a lot of capital. That's a really tough way to do it.
Yeah, and I was in my 20s, and with a service-based business, I was able to bootstrap a lot of it. So kind of like, but yeah, those are the good old days. Everything's a lot more expensive now.
Yeah, and again, you don't want to be undercapitalized. So there are plenty of resources, SBA loans. You can use equity in your house. From the standpoint, in your case, you can drive your car to the bank and get a loan on it. But there is lots of capital available, but you still have to have some from a standpoint. But some people just don't have it. And what I always tell people is, you don't want to take your whole worth or all your I guess assets and put them into a business. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, all your eggs in one basket kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The third one is that a lot of people, they've never been exposed to kind of that entrepreneur lifestyle. I mean, you and I were fortunate. We got raised by entrepreneurs.
Yeah. The cool thing about that is entrepreneurs only work half days, right? 12 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was always working, and I know your dad was too, from a standpoint. But we kind of lived that, right? You worked in your dad's business. I did some stuff with my dad, and we were kind of exposed to that. And do you remember, at least for us, we had good times with the business, and we had tough times, right?
Yep.
And sometimes when business was tough, we just didn't have things, right? It was just that was it. But the nice thing about being an entrepreneur is that, you're kind of building your own business from that standpoint, and you're in control. So even though it may be tough, you're going through good times or bad times, you're kind of in control. But some people just aren't given that opportunity to be raised in an entrepreneur family. So they just don't know how cool it can be to have an entrepreneur family. And I know you've used your business to teach your kids about being entrepreneurs. As I've taught my kids, although they're not involved in the business, I've taught them about being an entrepreneur or exposed them so that they have those skills going forward.
Yeah, I think that's I was thinking about that as you were talking. Like if your family has always been corporate or always been teachers or this or that, a franchise really is a good way to give your kids some exposure to business ownership in a very structured way. So yeah, I think that's a great way to just kind of expose them to new things. Kind of like, my kids, when they were young, they did taekwondo and they did lacrosse and they did football. It's like you get to expose them a lot of things, and then
Yeah.
maybe they really love it.
Well, I think it's important in today's world where we have a gig economy
Yeah.
that although our kids will go to college, at some point in time, they're going to have to create their own opportunities. And if we can give them some of those exposure to that, I think that's huge. That gives them an advantage, I think, going forward in this gig economy. All right. How about I think this would be number 4 is some people are just concerned, it's stressful owning a business.
Right.
Yes, it
The
is.
buck stops here.
It's stressful, right? But it's a good stress. I mean,
Right.
there's stress when you got a boss that's beating the crap out of you because you're not on your numbers and that kind of stuff. But there is also good stress, kind of being in that environment where you got to get something done. That you're always gonna have stress, but it might as well be on your terms.
Well, it's kind of like what your mentor was, I think, trying to pull out of you, right? It's like, hey, Pete, have you been successful before? And the answer is yes. And when you have your own business, you're going to be successful, but it's a different stress. You don't have to stress about the politics. You don't have to stress about, I might get fired, or they might downsize or consolidate, or whatever. I might get relocated. But you have different stress, but that stress, I think that's how humans are kind of, you use the stress to build your business, to motivate you.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think that's right. All right. Another one is sometimes people just enjoy what they're doing, right? They have no need to go invest in a business because they enjoy what they're doing. Like, for example, if I'm a fireman, I love being a fireman. I that's what I want to do. That's my passion. That's my desire. And I want to continue to be a fireman, and I can't create a fireman business, right? So bottom line is I'm just going to continue to do that, right? They love what they do.
So in that scenario, what is your thought? Do you think in that case it's probably best just to keep on, like, if you actually found something that you love to do and you could get paid to do it and you're making enough money, like that seems like a good reason to kind of just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, right. So they don't invest in a business because they're happy. And there's nothing the matter with being happy. And if you're doing something you really enjoy, there's no sense.
More power to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think that's
double down on that.
Yeah. The next one I think really hits home is some people just aren't ready to sacrifice I'll call it the time or the lifestyle changes that it takes to become a business owner.
Yeah, the blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, right. I mean, it takes time to do that, and from that standpoint, you're going to have to work hard at it. But it's also like when we started our business, we had to kind of cut back on a few things. When I left the corporate world at high pay,
Totally.
right, we had to cut back on certain things like vacations, and those were to me short-term sacrifices for a long-term gain.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's and it's actually really good for your kids or your family to see you doing that too. It's like, sometimes maybe you downsize your house or downsize your car, or just different strategies to kind of keep more of your money, and then invest that time and money into your new business, which can help you for many years and decades to come.
Yeah. Well, and I think there are certain things that our kids wanted when we were starting the business, and we couldn't do that for them.
Right.
We couldn't afford it. And now that we've had the business, our kids get almost anything they want within reason, right? But
Hey,
I think
did you get the iPhone 14 Pros yet?
I have not, and we have not upgraded. I take that back. So 2 of my kids are running around with 14s. I have not upgraded myself, so I go to the point that maybe we don't have to sacrifice now because we sacrificed earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I was just teasing you because you can basically get those phones for free now. It's just a matter of getting to the store and doing it, right?
Are you saying all customers get the same deal, existing and new customers?
I am. Yeah,
All
there's
right.
like some big push for the that new iPhone 14. But
Yeah. Well, I guess, right. It's a, I guess, huge changes from Mustang for sure. All right. All right. How about the next one as we talk about this is that sometimes people are afraid to work hard, right? They know investing in a business is going to be a heck of a hard work.
yeah. Um, I don't know about that one. I guess the way you and I, the way you and I were raised, it's like I don't know, not working hard wasn't necessarily an option. So it was like you
Right.
can work hard for someone else or you can work hard for yourself. And then kind of going back to that, like, hey, if you found a job you really like or you really enjoy, or if you don't have to work hard and you're heavily compensated, I mean, maybe it's just time to ride that gravy train for a while, right?
Well, for me, I'm going to work hard whether I have a job or I have my own business, right?
Yep.
I'm wired that way. And I think life is about working hard. I just don't think you get things easy. That's, you have to earn it. You have to work hard, in my opinion. And so it's different though, when you have your business, you're working hard for yourself. You're building something for yourself opposed to building something for your employer or, that kind of stuff. And it's a different, to me, it's a different type of hard work.
Yeah, you're like actually creating something for yourself and your family and your legacy. And you're building an asset. So it's almost like if you think about building a business, it's literally, somewhat similar to building a house. Like once you're done putting in the work, boom, you've got an asset there that is yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're working hard on that job, well, they can let you go anytime, or you've built something. And, I think of the story, the guy who worked for a large corporation and they had him started like a division or a company within the large corporation. And he worked 10 years, he labored, he built this business, right? And it was making tens of or hundreds of millions of dollars for the large corporation. And then they decided to, after 10 years, to move him to a new job within a different company.
Of
Right.
course.
Of
Yeah.
course. And he didn't get any of that benefit. And so, heck, if
Oh,
you're going to be working hard, it might as well be for you, for sure. Okay. Next one. Sometimes people have a fear of selling or business development, having to do sales.
yeah, that's a tough one to me a little bit because, I always say like nothing happens till somebody sells something. So I think when you own your own business, you either have to be willing to, gut it up and go do the sales or else hire a salesperson. As you know, my background's in senior care. And when you start a senior care business, we call it a run for mayor type of business. So you're literally out like shaking hands and kissing babies like all the time, just trying to build your network and all that. But yeah, I think, there's different ways. The nice thing about franchising is that you can interview a lot of franchise owners before you buy a franchise, and you can see like, okay, am I like these other owners that have been successful, or have they hired salespeople, or how do you figure this
Yeah.
out?
I think with today's marketing, though, there's less door-to-door sales from that standpoint,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So, right. And so what I tell people is that, it's in most cases, it's not door-to-door sales. And certainly you could find a franchise that's door-to-door sales, but a lot of them now are driven by digital marketing and all this stuff where the customers are coming to you. Whether they walk through the door of your facility or they call you and say, would you please come to our house because we got a problem, right? We need new carpet or whatever it may be. So a lot of times what I ask people is, hey, listen, are you willing to tell somebody how you can help them? If they have a problem, could you just simply tell them how you can help them from some point? And so
solving
it's
problems.
yeah, it's solving problems. So it's not, you're not doing door-to-door sales, but if you believe in what you're selling or your product or service, and you can tell people how you can help them, that's a whole different gig than knocking on doors. And I've done my fair share of knocking on doors. So I know that's just really tough. But not all businesses, it's not like that. And if it does require somebody that is out there getting in the sales, is you can always hire salespeople.
Yeah. Well, and even as franchise consultants, a lot of what, we kind of actually categorize franchises based on the level of selling it involves. So, some people might think it's, one thing, but it might actually be another thing. So we can kind of help people navigate those waters and match them up with something that matches with their
Yeah.
personality.
And to your point, as you get in and you start evaluating a business, you can talk to owners and find out what the sales process is and how would you feel with that? So
Yeah.
many different things. Okay, next one. And you'll love this next reason why people don't invest in a business. They believe a job is income security.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with this. I think are you referring to how I always say job's more like renting your income versus owning it?
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Because a job is like renting your income, because someday they're going to say, we don't need you anymore, Nat. You've done what we needed you to do, and we don't want you anymore, and go away.
Yeah. I mean, you hear those stories about guys walking to their cars with a banker box. It's like terrible.
So I just heard of my old company, Ford, they just laid off a bunch of people.
Oh.
And they're literally, I heard stories from some Ford employees where people showed up to work and their little badge to get them in the door was shut off.
Oh. What do you do in that scenario? You know,
right?
It's like, I think you go to the bar. I don't know what you do.
Well, I mean, you let's say you worked for the company for 20 years. You gave them 20 years of your life. You moved around the country. You spent, long days, nights, traveled, all this kind of stuff. And you go show up one day to work and your key card goes, it doesn't work, and you're done, right? That's called renting your income.
Oh, man. I wonder if they let them go at least get they must let them go get their stuff, right?
No, I don't think so. I think they put it in a box and you come pick up your box. I don't think you get a chance to go back to your desk.
Oh, man.
It's brutal from a standpoint. And so when you own your own business, nobody's laying you off. Nobody's turning off your key card, right?
Yeah, you might need to fire yourself once in a while.
Well, that's a whole nother story. But right. I think the idea is that you could be the last person standing if you had to be from a standpoint. You're in control of your income.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Some people just want to basically survive versus thrive. They're just kind of comfortable with checking the box every day, going to work. There's no really inspiration to become something more.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to figure anything new out. Like you kind of have your routine or whatever. And then it's kind of like that, what's that famous Ferris Bueller saying? Like sometimes, if you don't look around, life passes you by or whatever.
Yeah. I just watched that movie the other day. That's a great movie, by the way. But it's right. I mean, you become comfortable, and you got to kind of step out there when you're going to be an entrepreneur from a standpoint. And some people, they get in that comfort zone. They're not going to do anything, or there's just no desire. So
yeah. Well, I totally agree. I think sometimes it's good to break up the routine. I mean, hey, if someone's listening to this and they don't want to invest, they're like, oh, I'm exactly that kind of guy that's in my comfort zone. I mean, I would say, hey, go join a new gym, or, just start to do some things, get outside your comfort zone and have some fun. I know all of us kind of got in a rut these last 3 years, perhaps. I personally just joined a new gym and I'm having tons of fun doing that. Makes me want to do more new things. And hey, maybe, if you're like me, maybe then you end up, investing in some more businesses and seeing where life's journey takes you.
Yeah, I think status quo doesn't work in today's world. I mean, the world is changing so much, and status quo, if you're just comfortable with that,
you're living or dying.
Yeah, life's going to pass you by from that standpoint. All right, Nat. Well, I got to go get ready for the onslaught of my kids from that standpoint. So it has been a great conversation today, and those are the 10 reasons why people don't invest in businesses.
Thanks for listening to the Hire Yourself podcast. For more resources, check out our website at hireyourself.com. And remember to subscribe to this podcast to receive each episode. Please leave us a rating, and we'd love to hear your feedback or suggestions for topics.